Hello everyone, first news update for 11th of April. Now it's 22:10 in the morning Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find this episode informative and useful. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary, and consider to support my work with donation or by subscribing to my Patreon and Boosty pages. All the links are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And also, if you can, please watch my videos on Rumble. If you are subscribed to my channel on Rumble, and if you are not, please consider to subscribe to my Rumble channel and watch my videos there. If I had similar views on Rumble as I do on YouTube, maybe Rumble platform would be, significant help for this project to survive. So yes, if I may, I will ask you to watch my videos on Rumble. It's free, by the way. I mean, unlike Patreon and Boosty, where there is a monthly subscription on Rumble is completely free. So, and link to my Rumble is also on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's go through some news now. And RIA Novosti is reporting that air defense systems on duty intercepted some 30 Ukrainian drones overnight, early hours of this morning. Drones that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO member states, of course, France, UK, US. And at this point, there is no reports about casualties on the ground as a result of this strike or more or less significant damage. If any update on that, of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X pages. So 25 drones from this 30 were intercepted over the Kursk region, and 5 drones over the Belgorod region. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces are bringing more and more militants and the mercenaries to Kharkov region. So the Ukrainian armed forces are bringing more and more militants and the mercenaries to the Kharkov region. Vitaly Ganchev, head of Russian regional administration, told RIA Novosti, excuse me, more and more militants and mercenaries are moved into region. Local residents cannot help but notice this. The current authorities in Kharkov are announcing, Ukrainian administration of the Kharkov region is announcing increase in attacks on personnel of the Kyiv regime and their deployment points. Also, military facilities identified in the city and the region. So recently, probably all of you noticed significant increase of the Russian long-range precise strikes on enemy infrastructure in Kharkov and Kharkov city and also region. And because Kyiv regime, according to reports, deploys more and more troops into this direction, one may assume that potentially Kharkov region is one of the directions where Russian armed forces might launch a sectoral scale offensive operation in relatively near future, which is may be the case, which might be the case. All the Russian troops also can launch a sectoral scale offensive operation in the Sumy direction, for example, in Zaporozhye region. So therefore, it is difficult to say what is going to be next steps of the Russian armed forces. Of course, general staff not gonna share plans with the public for understandable reasons, but well, deployment of significant number of Kyiv regime's troops in the Kharkov region can be seen as an indicator that something is about to happen in that direction. Also, dear friends, Russian armed forces finalizing clearing operation in a borderline strip of the Kursk salient. Currently, Kyiv regime's troops are holding two settlements only from over 100 that they managed to establish control over initially during the invasion of the Kursk region. These two settlements are Aleshnya and Garnal, and reports are coming in that Kyiv regime is desperately trying to maintain its foothold in the Kursk salient area, and therefore they are sending more and more troops in Aleshnya and Garnal direction, and the Kyiv regime is suffering huge losses, especially in Aleshnya area right now, because it seems like Russian troops are focused to liberate Aleshnya first, and then to move attention to Garnal settlement simultaneously. And I guess it is highly possible that before end of this week, in next 48 to 72 hours, Russian troops will liberate Aleshnya, and before end of next week, Karnal also. And simultaneously, Russian troops continue to create a buffer zone in the Sumy region, and currently offensive operations are underway in the Loknya, Yunakovka directions, and I guess before end of next week, Loknya settlement will be liberated, also liberated from Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. Maybe even Yunakovka. That's possibility also. That's been said. Let's go through some other news now. RIA Novosti is reporting that, Russian Foreign Ministry reported on the results of the negotiations between Russia and the United States. Negotiations took place in Istanbul, Turkey, yesterday. So following talks in Istanbul, Russia and the United States exchanged notice on commitments to facilitate uninterrupted banking and financial services for embassies, according to statement on the Foreign Ministry's website. The delegations exchanged notice confirming the agreement reached on the mutual obligations to facilitate uninterrupted banking and financial services for the Russian and American diplomatic missions, as well as the implementation of Russia's contributions to their budgets of the UN and other international organizations, their department said. In addition, Moscow raised the issue of returning 6 diplomatic properties owned by Russia that were confiscated by US authorities. It is specified that the parties agreed to develop a necessary roadmap. Some may argue that at least there was some progress reached during these talks in Istanbul, minor progress, and maybe it is the case, but question is, will the US honor any agreement that US leadership will sign up for? That's the biggest question, isn't it? Because historically speaking, Western so-called elites are not really trustworthy and cannot be trusted ever, really. So therefore, I think US will not honor agreement with Russia, and Russian embassy staff are gonna continue to experience difficulties to do their work, and I guess Russia will have no option to suppress activity of the US diplomats in Russia too, yet again, because US will not honor agreement, most likely. And ever more surprising is to me this report, based on objective reality on the ground and constant threats that Washington is issuing towards Russia, that a special envoy of US President Witkoff is headed to Russia now, and reports are that he might actually met with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. So US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has headed to Russia and is expected to meet with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, that is today. The Axios portal reports, citing sources familiar with their situation and the data from the flight radar service. The portal noticed that this might already be the third meeting between Witkoff and Putin. Well, we know about first meeting, or I don't know about second or anything. Well, maybe there was some meeting that the public was not informed about. I don't know, but today there might be next meeting, which is yet again, surprising if Russian president will meet with Witkoff, because just last week, special envoy of Russian president, economical envoy, Dmitriev was in Washington, and he was not greeted by Trump. And while US is demonstrating this attitude, why should Russian president waste time speaking to Witkoff? I don't know. I don't understand this. You tell me, dear friends, maybe you read big picture, better than I do, because I really struggle to understand why on earth Russian president gonna waste time meeting with Witkoff when US president was disrespectful towards Russian special envoy because he didn't met him. And US leadership is disrespectful towards Russia on daily basis. Just yesterday, representative of State Department was issuing additional warnings towards Russia. And when situation is like that, when US leadership is refusing to acknowledge objective reality, refusing to acknowledge that they lost this proxy war that they led against Russia, until US leadership is refusing to agree on concessions, why Russian president should waste time talking to representatives of Trump, I don't know, I don't understand. It's wrong in my personal opinion. But yet again, I mean, it's not me decision maker, so we will find out. By the way, I think this is a total waste of time until US acknowledges its guilt before Russia, until US leadership agrees on concessions towards Russia for all the damage that was done to Russia by US and its actions. I don't think there is any point in talks between the two sides on any level, with the exception of defense ministries and their security services. There should be some backdoor lines of communication between Pentagon and the Russian Defense Ministry, between US Secret Services and Russian Secret Services, to make sure that due to some human error that might occur, two countries, two major nuclear powers, not going to end up in full-scale war. That's the only reason why there should be some backdoor lines of communication in those areas. But otherwise, I don't think Russian should spend or waste any time, even a second, communicating with their US representatives until Washington acknowledges its guilt before Russia and Russian citizens, and until Washington agrees on concessions for all the harm that they did to Russian citizens and Russia. That's my take on the situation as an ordinary citizen, and I'm quite sure many my fellow citizens here in Russia are on the same page on this issue. RIA Novosti is reporting that US ambassador in Ukraine resigns, which is quite interesting. This person is an extreme Russia hater, as far as I understand, and Trump's administration had some issues with this personality, Tammy Bruce, and I guess she was forced basically to resign. U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Bridget Brink, sorry, not Tammy Bruce, but Bridget Brink, is returning home. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce said at the briefing that Tammy Bruce is a person that was threatening Russia yesterday, right? So, and these are new people, by the way. I don't really remember names of those people. Why should I? I mean, who are they, for God's sake? So earlier on Tuesday or Thursday, earlier on Thursday, U.S. media reported that this Bridget Brink, was planning to resign due to an unusual combination of personal and political issues, including recent layoffs at the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. So, as I said, by the way, according to reports that I see in open sources, this personality, this Bridget Brink, or whatever her freaking name is extreme Russophobe, enemy of Russia and Russian people. And if she is resigning and she will be sacked, well, good. Good, by the way. Maybe now she will be replaced by some other Russophobe and Russia hater. Most likely that is going to be case. But at least this criminal is out of ambassador's position for now, which is good. Which is good, by the way. Also, difference. Before I continue, let me notice that this media project is completely subscriber funded. They're independent. That is, and well, if you find it necessary that channels like mine should exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work and this project. You can do it through several means, with donations through PayPal platform, or if you don't have a PayPal platform, you can support through crypto. or through Boosty platform. This is the Boosty, by the way. You can subscribe to my page here, become a Patreon, and you can subscribe also on my Patreon page. I have plenty of extra content on these platforms. You can also donate through Boosty. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you, by the way. It's up to you. So yes, you can either donate, either subscribe to my Patreon and Boosty pages. And I really hope our community on Boosty and Patreon will increase, because currently income that project has through Boosty and Patreon is not enough even for to pay for rent. And when it comes to donations, this week there was not a single donation, nothing for the project. And obviously I'm a bit nervous because I cannot sustain this project if situation continues to deteriorate. I don't know what to do, by the way, really. I want to work on this project, but I'm not millionaire, so therefore if there is no support for the project from the community, then I guess anyways, TASS news agency is reporting that Britain could deploy troops to Ukraine for 5 years. So Britain is considering the possibility of deploying troops on Ukraine territory for up to 5 years until Ukraine is remilitarized. This was reported by Daily Telegraph newspaper, citing sources. I spoke about this topic of NATO troops deployment into Ukraine many times. I don't want to waste any more time on that. Russian position is well known. No NATO troops are acceptable in so-called Ukraine. And if deployment still happens, then these NATO troops from UK, France, or other countries will be treated as combatants. And you'll understand what that means. And for this moment, dear friends, there is only 6 countries, according to AFP, the report, that are agreeing to deploy their troops on Kiev-controlled territory under whatever pretext, but they are agreed to deploy their troops. So only 6 Western nations have pledged to send troops to Ukraine after the hostilities between Kiev and Moscow end. And this is a lie, by the way. They are not planning to deploy troops after hostility will end, after peace is reached. They want to deploy troops now. They want to deploy troops now, and they want to provoke wider war. Globalists want to provoke wider war, and that's why there's constant talk about deployment of NATO troops, right? And this report is coming from AFP. Report comes after the latest meeting of the defense ministers from the so-called Coalition of the Willing in Brussels on Thursday. The group of 30 nations, predominantly composed of EU and NATO member states, appears to remain split on the potential deployment. Its members are questioning the goals and their mandate of their proposed mission. Thus, this far, only 6 nations, including UK, France, and the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, have promised to contribute troops, the AFP reported, citing unnamed European officials. The sixth state in their group was not named by their agency, and most likely it is Poland, by the way. Most likely that 6th nation is Poland. And so let's see. Me personally, I think we should keep in mind 2 possibilities. One is that once this conflict will end, most likely, as I said many times before, Western Ukraine will end up under control of NATO. Ukraine will just undergo full-scale disintegration. It seems inevitable to me. And Western Ukraine eventually will become under NATO control and potentially claimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania. maybe Slovakia will have some claims on some territories of the Western Ukraine. Maybe even Bulgaria, by the way. There are some people in Bulgaria that have some claims. So therefore, in the western parts of Ukraine, there will be NATO troop deployment, but rest of the territory is out of question. Any NATO troops outside of Western Ukraine will be treated as a combatants for sure. And even in the Western Ukraine, deployment of NATO troops should be coordinated with Moscow. Otherwise, I don't think Russian side will tolerate presence of NATO troops in Western Ukraine. In any case, as I said, currently, based on my reading of the big picture, I think globalists are desperately trying to provoke wider war, and to achieve this goal, they might deploy their troops into Odessa region. They might deploy NATO troops into Odessa region, into Kharkov direction, Sumy direction, Chernigov, Dnipropetrovsk, all along the front line, basically, to provoke Russian side, and once Russia will have no option but to take action against these NATO troops. Of course, these NATO countries, under leadership of UK and France, gonna start whining about, and they will try big time to speculate with their Article 5, to speculate with some other means to provoke this wider war with Russia and to keep US in this war, right? Because without US, let's be real here, without US, European NATO member states have no chance against Russia. Not even for a second, but they might have a other reading of the big picture. They might think otherwise, and they might still risk, even if they know that US will stay out of wider war, if it will be provoked. Anyways, we will find out. For now, all we see is just plenty of talk about NATO troops deployment, and maybe eventually London and Paris will realize that they are just not in a position to fight Russia, and they will back off. That's also a possibility. Anyways, RT is reporting that EU and NATO member state launches clamp down on the largest Christian church. So Estonia's parliament has approved a law that could force the Estonian Christian Orthodox Church to sever its historical ties with Russia, with the Russian Orthodox Church, by the way, that is. According to local broadcaster ERR, Moscow has slammed the move as a blow to religious rights and freedoms, and of course it is an assault on religious rights and freedoms, on Orthodox Christianity. And unfortunately, this news not comes as a surprise, because, as I said many times before, these Baltic states, and there are many other states, by the way, in the collective West, are run by extreme Russophobes, extreme Russia haters, and they hate everything about Russia, including Orthodox Church. And of course, Russia is associated with Orthodox Church. Majority of us are Orthodox Christians, myself included, although I'm Georgian Orthodox Christian, by the way, but Georgian Orthodox Church and Russian Orthodox Church are sister churches, so we all are, one bigger Orthodox family. And so, yes, this is clearly attack on Orthodoxy, religious rights and freedoms, and unfortunately, level of deterioration or degradation of their political class in the EU, NATO member states is such that at this point, no one should be surprised when these countries are taking some fascist moves, and of course, attack on church is definitely characterizes fascistic nature of the Estonian government, 100%, by the way, right? It's a shame what has what these former Soviet republics have become, by the way. I mean, Estonia, especially Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, because I mean, what the hell, man? They are full of hatred and they hate just about everybody, right? If you think they hate only Russia, you are mistaken. They are Nazis, by the way. They hate everybody. They are using EU as much as they can, but if you think they have any respect for other people, you are mistaken. Nazis don't have any respect to nobody, right? They are Nazis. They think that that particular group that they represent is some godlike creatures, and rest is just animals. That's what Nazis think about. In Estonia, in Latvia, Lithuania, in Ukraine, by the way, Ukrainian Nazis has similar takes, and everywhere else, right? TASS news agency is reporting that talks between Israel and Turkey failed to reach agreement on Syria during negotiations in Azerbaijan. I reported about meeting of representatives of two countries that took place in the Southern Caucasus Republic, Azerbaijan, yesterday. And not surprisingly, these talks failed to reach any agreement. Second round of the talks probably will take place after 19th of April, because between 12th and the 19th of April there is some religious celebration in Israel, and well, after that probably sides will continue to talk. But yet again, I don't think they're gonna reach any agreement, because Israel will continue to neutralize Israel will continue to strike Syria, and Turkey will continue with the plans to deploy its troops into Syria, including air bases. And recently, by the way, T4 air base was obliterated by Israeli strikes, and that air base is one of the few that Turkey was preparing for deployment of its air force. So remember what I said from very beginning, when this regime change happened in Syria, that now Israel and Turkey are basically bordering each other, if you take into account that Syria is run by Turkish proxies, right? And potentially there is a real risk there that at one point Israel and Turkey might end up in a direct military confrontation, and some harsh statements being made in both countries towards each other. Very strong statements, threatening statements. And just recently, I believe one of the public figures in Turkey even stated that it will take just a couple of days for Turkish army to march to Tel Aviv. So they are gearing up for potential future conflict, and it's not. Israel may actually first time face a rival that will be near peer. Anyways, let's continue with some more news. RIA Novosti is reporting that meeting of CIC, Council of Foreign Ministers, underway in Almaty, former capital of Kazakhstan. Restricted format meeting of their CIS is a Commonwealth of Independent States, former Soviet republics get together in this organization. So the restricted format meeting of their CIS, freaking by, sorry dear friends, why they are using this freaking letters only, man? Just write as it is, man. Commonwealth of Independent States. Are they lazy to write it? Council of Foreign Ministers is taking place in Almaty. Before the start of the event, Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan, Murat Nurtleu, greeted their heads of diplomatic missions with a handshake. Okay, the Russian delegation is headed by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. So, I mean, one may argue that this Commonwealth of Independent States is a failed organization. It don't really influences anything or much. And I'm on that page. Really, why this organization exists, I have no idea, by the way. Members of this organization not really acting as allies towards each other, right? So therefore, I don't know, man. I don't know what future lays for CIS, but I don't think it's something of positive. This organization should be dissolved, by the way, because it makes no sense to me personally, by the way, because RIA Novosti is reporting that they're using, by the way, Russia. That's what it is. That's what this organization does. Allows former Soviet republics to access Russian market, to use Russia, by the way, while they are not really acting as allies of Russia in many cases. So therefore, why Russia is paying for these countries? I don't know. They can, export in Russia whatever they want because they're just members of Russia. And when it comes to some principal stance to support Russia, or majority of this CIS organization is just, beginning to act like, oh, we are neutral, really? So if you are neutral, then fuck off and don't come close to our market. Do your business in US, go there, you are welcomed in US, right? So go there and do your business there, or in European Union for that matter, and be neutral with them. But anyways, man, I mean, too many games, too many games, and in modern days, politics and diplomacy become a joke, complete joke, by the way, total lies everywhere, and there are too many fake stuff, fake organizations, fake unions, fake partnerships. Almost everything is freaking fake, right? And everyone seems like is ignoring this objective reality that almost everything is freaking fake nowadays. Anyways, RIA Novosti is reporting that Trump raises tariffs on Chinese goods 245%. Okay, by the way, I guess China will respond on that in the same way. And also we have this report that Xi Jinping is planning to visit Vietnam, Malaysia and Cambodia on April 14th, between April 14th and 18th. I guess Beijing will try to, significantly improve relationships with its neighbors, so that US or the collective West, Western ruling class, will have lesser possibilities to use some tensions between regional countries to escalate with China, right? So it is an understandable move on part of Chinese leadership. Also, EU issues threats to US tech giants. The European Union is prepared to impose block-wide tariffs on major US tech companies such as Meta and Google if negotiations with Washington fail to resolve the escalating trade dispute. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has warned them. Okay. If EU, as I said, by the way, almost everything is fake, isn't it? Including partnerships. European states and US, they are allies, or supposed to be allies, and they should treat each other as such, right? But in reality, they hate each other. They just hate each other, and they are trying to harm each other's positions as much as they can, right? And they are no longer hiding it, really. We are living in a freaking fake world. And I will end this update, by the way, on this news that Russia to increase the length of stay for foreign tourists on electronic visas. So if you were planning to visit Russia and if you were applying for electronic visa, then instead of 16 days, you will have opportunity to stay in Russia for 30 days. Okay, I mean, this might be useful for some people, but I don't think that many tourists are planning these touristic trips for 30 days because I mean it's just too expensive. I mean 1 week is already gonna be costly to go into any country really. 30 days, that's quite something. But still, by the way, still it might help to it might be helpful for a number of foreign tourists that are visiting Russia. The period of stay of foreign tourists in Russia on the electronic visa will increase from 16 to 30 days. Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin said at the government meeting. For the second year now, residents of 64 countries have been receiving a single electronic visa. During this time, it has been issued more than 1 million times. Today, we will consider a change in legislation that will increase the length of the stay under it. Now it will be 30 days instead of 16. He said, okay, I chose this news to report in this update, just in case some members of our community are planning to visit Russia, so they will manage their trip better. Because yes, it is a significant difference between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, right? So okay, that's been said. I'm gonna end this update now, and well, relatively short update, by the way. Hopefully you will find it useful, informative, and if so, once again, please click that like button and leave some commentary. I don't know why, but YouTube's algorithm is suppressing my videos in the last several days big time. Yesterday's update barely reached 2,000 views, and the update before that barely managed to reach 3,000 views. I don't know these numbers are real or YouTube is hiding real views. But anyways, please, if you are watching on YouTube, please click that like button, or Rumble. That doesn't really matter. It might help on both platforms. Please click that like button, leave some commentary, and share videos or information about my channel with your friends. And if you can, as I already said in the beginning, by the way, please consider to watch my updates on Rumble. That might be helpful, really. So this is it for now. If you want to support, all the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day, great upcoming weekend, and take care.